Hi, hello. Okay, so this is going to be the first video of my secret Shadowhunters vlog. Ignore the sounds outside, that's the laundry machine going off. So basically what happened is I realized that Red Scrolls of Magic was coming out on April 9, and I was thinking that I wanted to read all the Shadowhunters books, and I have about 10 of them still to go, 10 or 11 I think. So me being me and being a little extra, I decided I was going to read everything in the Shadowhunters world, or at least as much of it as I need to, in the next 25 days. Can I do it? I don't know. Will I try? For sure. Now, the reason why this is going to be a secret project is because every time I say that I'm gonna read the Shadowhunters series online, for some reason it feels like a jinx and I never get around to doing it. So what's going to be happening is that I will not say that I'll be reading it online. I will just do it, and I will only be talking to very few people about it. Mackie, obviously, Kristen from Super Space Jake, Rachel from Hello Chelly, Jane from It's Jane Lindsay, and Madeline from Novel Inc. I also think DJ from Life and Fiction will be privy to some of my thoughts. But yeah, I'm just gonna basically update those guys every time I'm reading something, and you guys as well, but you guys will see this after everything is over. But anyway, what I did was I went out of my way to figure out how many chapters or stories are in each one of the books that I plan to read for this secret Shadowhunters project, and I made myself a document where I divided it up within the 25-day span that I've got, and I have to read about 13 chapters or so a day. I only know very, very little about the Infernal Devices, and I also know very little about the second half of the Mortal Instrument series, and I know basically nothing about the Dark Artifices, which is a feat considering like how many people have read those series and how many people talk about them online and how many people I'm friends with. So we're just gonna get this ball rolling. My first book obviously is gonna be City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This will be the third or fourth time that I have reread this one. I plan to read 13 chapters and then the remaining 11 the next day, so wish me luck. Here's to hoping that this project actually works out and is not a fail. Guess we're going to have to see. Before starting my reread, I will tell you that I really strongly love Magnus and Alec, and they are my favorite characters in the series. But I do recall that when I was rereading the first trilogy last year, I did find Clary more likable than I remembered and Simon more likable than I remembered. So it'll be interesting to see if anything has changed since that time and if anything will change going forward. I'm so excited for this project. Cannot wait to share it with you guys. Wild Friday night over here, because guess what's happening today? I am starting my reread of City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Mortal Instruments. I actually reread this one in September of last year, and it's just because I'm a very compulsive personality that I wanted to reread it again in an attempt to read the entire series. So we shall see how successful that is. I don't know. I remember though that when I read it last year I was pleasantly surprised, so maybe that'll be the case. I don't know. What do you think about this?
A terrible idea, really. No, I'm kidding. I encourage that you are refreshing your memory, but at the same time, must you endure the Jason Clary thing all over again?
See, for me in the first series, I'm actually fine with City of Bones, and I'm pretty okay with City of Glass. It's really Ashes that just I don't particularly love.
I'm just here for Alec and Magnus, really.
Oh, I love them so much. Anyway, okay, bye. I'm gonna go read now. So you can probably chalk this up to me being very unobservant, but I actually just noticed that if you look closely, you will recognize this. If you've read the book, and if you haven't, well, it'll mean nothing to you, so that's where we're at. Okay, fine. I'm gonna stop stalling now, and I'll actually start reading. Okay, I'm not gonna do this for every chapter, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the beginning of City of Bones. So the edition we have is the one with the author's note in it, and it's kind of interesting to me just to get a little perspective on what inspired Cassandra Clare to write her story and how it has morphed into this thing, and I find that part fascinating. I also always forget that she opens up the sections with like Shakespeare, and you guys know I love Shakespeare, so that's always a plus. And I was just telling Mackie that I think the first chapter, the entire thing that happens at Pandemonium, is actually a pretty good setup for the rest of the story. It is sort of tropey in a way, and I also can't get over like the description of Jace being like having lion eyes.
Yeah.
It's literally like lion eyes. Hey, how do you feel about that? I mean, like, I don't know. If I saw Lion staring at me, I think I would just like want to run away and not stare back, so.
I would poke it in the face and see what happens.
But that's just me. Anyway, I'm gonna keep on going now. Let me correct myself. It's lion cat eyes. It's not lion eyes, it's lion cat eyes. Okay, bye. Good morning! Okay, it's day 2 of me reading Shadowhunters books. I actually managed to finish my day 1 goal right before I went to sleep yesterday. We were just talking about how I find the whole like Hotel du Monde, Hotel du Mort thing very clever. But we were also talking about how I love Alec Lightwood. Not shocking. He's exactly my type. Dark-haired, blue-eyed grump who is surly about a lot of things and has a lot of deep hidden feelings. One of my favorite scenes in the first book, which I always forget about until I'm reading it, is that scene where Clary confronts Jace about putting a rune on her and the fact that she could have died. And he says he was 90% sure. And then there's like this long pause and then she slaps him in the face. And he's like, what did you do that for? And she's like, for the other 10%.
10%. That was a good line.
Love that scene. Like, I love it. It's so good. I also forget how...
Fine, that was a redeeming moment.
It is, though. It's also a defining moment for their relationship, because he knows that she's not going to take his shit. Another thing that cracked me up yesterday was the fact that, again, back to the lion cat eyes, my friend Madeline from Novel League. So I'm talking to her and to Jane and to Kristen and to Rachel and to Maki while I'm reading this, and Madeline pointed out that they almost always describe the color of Jace's eyes whenever they mention them in a scene. And it's true. Like, half the time it's amber or golden or tawny. It's always those 3 things. And I just, can't. The one thing that I will say about Cassie Clare's books is that she really must have learned and honed her ability to write with the right pacing, because I swear to God, her drops are always at exactly the right moment. For example, the whole drop about Valentine literally happens at the end of part 1 and you're like, it's great. Like, it's so good. It's well paced. Also the way they drop the fact that Jocelyn is his wife, also really well paced. It literally just happens and then you're like, oh shit. Also Magnus. Can I just tell you guys, like the moment Magnus appears, his presence is so electric and I freaking love him. Like I just irrationally love him from like page 1 when he appears, and it's amazing. But anyway, so Simon is now in the Hotel du Monde and they have to go and rescue him, but being schmucks, those 2 are gonna go on their own instead of enlisting help. So that's about to happen. We'll see how it goes. I should be finishing the rest of City of Bones today because that's the schedule. And then starting City of Ashes, which should be interesting because so far of the 3 books, that's my least favorite one because sibling, incest, angst. Okay, it's been 2 hours since I sat down, more or less, to read, and I finished City of Bones, which is all according to schedule. You know, the funny thing is about that book is that I always assumed that I hadn't enjoyed it, but I actually enjoyed it? I don't know. I think in a lot of ways there are a lot of very recognizable like fanfic type tropes and pacing in it, but it's just really fun. And I think that, you know, Cassandra Clare was able to create this world that's so interesting and drawing on all these different like paranormal things, and it really just still amuses me. I don't know, I still find it very interesting. Anyway, we're about to step into Angst World because it's book 2, City of Ashes, and they just found out the big deal secret that they're siblings, so see how that goes. But I'm gonna take a break for a little while and then I'll go back to reading. I'm gonna start City of Ashes and read at least 2 chapters today, so there's that. I might read more, you never know. I'm in like a reading mood, so we'll see. Okay, so after messing around a little bit with the planner that I used, which if you guys haven't seen the video, I will link that down below. After messing around with it a bit and updating it for March, I have finally decided that it's time for me to read 2 chapters of City of Ashes. So far, the only thing that stands out about this cover is that Clary now has runes and she's wearing a badass leather jacket, and I will update you guys when I stop reading again. Alright, see you later, bye. So the thing about this one is like the banter between Jace and Izzy and Alec at the very beginning when they're talking about the dragon demon that they killed is still funny to me. Like, I don't know, I love Alec and I love Isabel, and I also have a soft spot for Jace sometimes as his own person. But this first chapter is also hard because you're reminded of a lot of the things that are about to make this book real angsty, and because I don't love where the story is going right now, even though I can see how it works for this. I'm just kind of like, all right, well, we'll just keep going. We'll see what happens. So that's what's happening. Jace has just disappeared, so poor thing probably has like a lot of feelings about his father and the people he considered his family not being able to trust him. It's a lot to deal with, admittedly. Also, I always forget that Simon like kisses Clary in this chapter, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, I'm like, it's not necessarily the most appropriate time, but okay. Okay, bye, back to reading. Even though I technically don't have to read anymore for the day, I'm gonna read a teensy bit more. I'm sorry, I do like Simon, but like, where does he get off calling Clary his girlfriend? Like, out of nowhere, without even talking to her. Like, why? Anyway, I read farther than I was supposed to today, so I'm a little bit ahead of schedule, which is nice. I might read some more later, but right now, yeah. Still kind of not feeling this whole, like, Simon being like, Clary's my girlfriend, and I'm like, question mark? Hello! So, it is another day, which means another section of a Shadowhunters book is gonna get read. I am still reading City of Ashes. I don't know if maybe I'll read ahead and finish today. Who knows? Anyway, I just wanted to say hello. I just did some blogging and we filmed a couple of videos, and now I have a nice chai and the book, and I'm just gonna sit on the couch and read for a little bit, and we'll see how far I get. I don't know. Technically, I only need to read 13 chapters of it today, but there is a possibility that I'll probably finish it because that's not very far from the ending of it at this point. I will take this moment to say, though, that I am enjoying it more than I expected to. I don't know. I'm saying this now, but I could regret this in like a couple of books, but I don't think it's an all-time favorite series for me, but I am very like interested and even impressed by how the world is being built in this one. I don't always love the characters or the decisions they make, but it's been an entertaining ride so far, and I further expect it to be that way as the books continue. I'm still doing my reread though, so we'll see how that goes. Good morning! So, Shadowhunters Secret Project update. I actually managed to finish City of Ashes yesterday, which puts me ahead of schedule, which is great. I don't know if it's gonna stay that way all throughout, but we will see. I was talking with my friends about it yesterday, Madeline, Jane, Kristen, and Madeline made a very good point when she says that it's very hard to put down a Cassie Clare book, like once you start it, and it's true. I am enjoying myself way more than I thought I was going to, because there's just something about her world and her story that are so compelling, even when you want to wring the necks of some of her characters. Alec Lightwood, Jace Wayland, Simon. Anyway, I read City of Ashes. I still enjoyed it as much as I did when I reread it last year, so there's that. I think because my expectations are so low, I'm enjoying things. I don't know, maybe that's it. I am gonna finally start City of Glass today. Who knows, maybe I'll actually get ahead on reading that one as well and then be ahead of schedule. Good morning! So it's day 5 maybe, or 4 of reading the Shadowhunter series, and I'm halfway through City of Glass. And right now I just wanted to mention how much it squicks me out, because I know how this one ends because I've read it, obviously. It still squicks me out when frickin' Sebastian tries to kiss Clary and she kisses him back, and it still also squicks me out a little bit, even though I know they're not siblings, obviously. But when Jace and Clary also kiss, when he's under the impression that it's like a terrible thing because of his blood, can't even. But also, I still don't like Simon. I mean, he's doing something very noble right now, which is great, but I also still don't like Simon. I should be finished with that one tonight, and then I finally get to start a new to me Shadowhunters book tomorrow, Clockwork Angel. Good morning. I was talking about City of Glass and how I finally finished my reread of it, so that's exciting. And I wanted to share a few thoughts. So one of the things that I really wanted to say about those books is that for me, it's frustrating because Simon and Jace are equally heavy-handed in their behavior, especially romantically, and that really, really bugs me sometimes. At least with Jace, you kind of expect it because he's an arrogant asshole, and he's already portrayed that way, so it's a little less, like, not less bothersome, but like you expect it. Meanwhile, with Simon, like, in my mind, like, he's a childhood best friend, and he's nice and everything, and then when he does something, like, terrible relationship-wise, like, I'm so disappointed because you're supposed to be a nice dude. I'm still Team Alec and Magnus, they have such good moments in City of Glass. Like, I love when Alec comes, he's like running through Alicant and he sees Magnus being attacked by demons, and then he sees one sneaking up behind Magnus and he goes and saves Magnus. And then the first thing he says is, "Why didn't you call me back?" Because he's a teenage boy. And even though you're just like, this should not be your concern because like people are dying and demons are invading your city, like it makes me laugh because I'm like, you clearly have feelings and you just need to remember it. And then Magnus tells him that he's in love with him, and I just like lose my shit a little because it's great. Also, one of my favorite lines in that book is when Simon goes, "People aren't born good or bad. Maybe they're born in tendencies either way, but it's the way that you live your life that matters and the people you know." Because I totally agree with it. But also, can I just say, even though I knew it was coming, I hate that Max dies. Like, it just kills me because Sebastian's a jackass. Max didn't have to die, but he did, and it still kills me. There's like this whole entire scene, like the night before Jace goes and chases after Sebastian, where he kind of goes to Clary and confesses that he still loves her. He has these feelings for her and he's never gonna stop having these feelings for her. And even though I get it, because like it's like the last night before the entire world is gonna change and they can either die or everything as they know it will be different, it still doesn't feel romantic to me because I'm like, you guys still think you're siblings, so it's kind of squeaking me out. So also, even though like I constantly have commentary on different things that happen in Cassie Clare books, I will say that she really knows how to write a story. Like, she's really good at building her world and tying her plot lines together. It's very neat and well done, and like that's a rarity in the fantasy I read, and I just have to say that I appreciate it. So that's what I'm gonna go. Anyway, I realized yesterday an exciting and terrifying thing. I realized that I have again completed like rereading the Shadowhunter books that I've already read. So today I'm actually starting one that I have never read before. Dun, dun, dun. I get to start Clockwork Angel. I'm super excited to meet Will Herondale, even though I have this feeling that I might like Jem a little better. I'm excited to meet Tessa because Mackie loves her. So it's gonna be an adventure and I cannot wait. Hello! So, Secret Shadowhunters project update. I got halfway through Clockwork Angel yesterday. It's my first time reading the Infernal Devices series, and literally I was like not even done with the first chapter and I was already like prickly because I'm like, oh no, I could totally fall in love with this. And like halfway through, that hasn't been wrong. Like, I have been thoroughly enjoying this historical setting and these characters. And also, I'm going to state for the record that if Tessa never had to pick, I know how it ends, by the way. Because, well, I don't know the specifics of how it ends, but I know how it sort of ends. Like, if she doesn't have to pick, and if Mackie doesn't have to pick, then I don't have to pick. And I refuse to because I love Tessa, and I love Will, and I love Jem. And, like, I just love the London Institute. Like, it's been amazing. And also, so where I'm reading, Magnus just showed up, and I'm, like, dying because I love Magnus, and you guys know this, and he's still my favorite. I love him so much. So yeah, I'm probably gonna finish that. No, I'm not probably gonna finish that today. I'm definitely finishing that today. Oh, so I was listening to the audiobook of this by Jennifer Ely, and I'm actually like surprisingly into it. Like, I rarely read things for the first time by audio. I'll usually do rereads that way. But in this case, I was like, I just want to listen to it at work so that I can sort of hear like everything already, and it's been so good. I loved Will and Jem from their first appearance, because I do. I love them both, and I also love their dynamic. Also, Pandemonium, just saying. The Dark Sisters creeped me out immensely, and Tessa is like, I was just like, I lost my shit a little when I realized Tessa was special. And then I love Will and his book references, and I love that he goes out of his way to fulfill his promise to Tessa at the very start, where he was like, I would give you more books. And yeah, it's just been such a good time. Cannot wait to continue. Cannot wait to find out more about everyone. Yee. I'm so happy. This is actually probably going to be my first 5-star Cassie Clare book, which is an amazing feeling. Cannot wait. So before I forget to do this update, guess what, guys? I finished Clockwork Angel today. I actually listened to the majority of it on audio while I was in my office. Whoops. But it was really good. I was very surprised by how into the audio I was. Also, my reaction to most of this novel has been a lot of like screaming at a variety of people. Jane, Madeline, Kristen, Rachel, Mackie. It has been a variety of screaming. It's been like a thing. So I think I said it already but I loved Will and Jem from the very beginning, like from the very first scene that they're in the book. And Tessa, on the other hand, like I loved her a lot as the book continued. Friggin' love Magnus Bane. But when he appears in the book, I'm just like, yes, this book needed a Magnus, and Magnus has shown up, so all good, all good. And Jem, like one of my first reactions to Jem in one of the scenes is like, he's just the kind of person that you immediately just want to make feel better, and or he'll make you feel better. Like it's one of those things. Like he's just a very calming presence. A Magnus moment that I was literally like, okay, yeah, of course it's yours. He's like, black hair and blue eyes are my favorite combination. My response to this was, Alec Lightwood, where are you? Of course, this is like centuries before. Century? Century? Is it century?
Or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's like a century before that, so obviously Alec hasn't even come close to existing yet. But there's that, and then, what else do I want to say? Call the Thing with the cat being Church. Also kind of like had a hint that Nathaniel wasn't going to be all he was cracked up to be, and also I'm suspicious of any like sibling character that is not a part of the main character group, because obviously. So Jem and Will, whenever they are described as being in Shadowhunter gear and like carrying Shadowhunter weapons and having the runes inked on them, I'm just like, listen, this is my life aesthetic now. Just the two of them in Shadowhunter gear fighting demons. Like, I'm good. That's all I want out of this book. I think a lot of the swoony moments in this book, which are primarily between one of the pairings, are very swoony indeed. Like the first kiss scene is definitely a very good first kiss scene. I really enjoyed that. But I did, but there's also a scene later on where Tessa kind of is, she's mad at Will, and obviously Will is being kind of an ass. And then she says to herself, she's like, drowning yourself won't help. Now drowning Will on the other hand. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I think it is. In the last 5 chapters of the book, I just completely lost my shit for the most part and was just yelling at everyone and being angry that I was invested in something that I didn't think I would be this invested in, but apparently I am, because I am trash. But that is where we're at this particular moment. Also, Jem has this like one line that I really loved. He says, "It is as great a thing to love as it is to be loved. Love is not something that can be wasted." And I love that line. So yeah, so far so good. That is actually the first ever Cassandra Clare book that I read that I immediately knew I was giving 5 stars. Like, I was like a third of the way through it and I knew. What do you say to this? Wow, that's
deep cackle.
Before I even started reading it, he was like, you know what, these two main guy characters are gonna remind you so much of these 2 characters you love from Bleach. He wasn't wrong.
I absolutely wasn't wrong.
Because I'm reading
okay,
this.
first of all, you've got like the semi-roguish dark-haired one, and then there's the sickly, you know, silvery-haired one. And they're just absolutely excellent. Of course, this was them kind of like younger, so I have to sell me on Will and Jem. Love those two so much. It's not even funny.
Yes, but you're Team Tessa.
Forever.
I'm actually traveling for tomorrow and Saturday, and I'm bringing the next book in order of publication with me, which is City of Fallen Angels, so wish me luck with that one. Hello, long time no check-in. So I don't remember if I talked about Clockwork Angel while I was reading it, but suffice to say, that was an excellent reading experience. I read some of it physically, but I read most of it via audiobook, which I borrowed from the library, and that was also a really fun experience. I love the London Institute. I love the people in the London Institute a whole lot. I love Tessa.
Charlotte Bradwell for president.
Agreed. I love Tessa a whole lot. I think she is great, and I cannot wait to see how her story progresses. But most of all, I just really love Will and Jem, which is an unsurprising turn of events. I'm a little behind schedule because I should have been up to City of Lost Souls by now. But I read City of Fallen Angels, and I have to say, I had very low expectations going into it because I know a lot of people don't like this book as much. But I thought it was interesting. I think the reason why I struggled a teensy bit with it, like compared to the other books, is that it centers mostly around Simon and Jace. Like, Jace is going through some real tough stuff in this one, which when everything like falls together in the end for both of them, actually, I sort of sympathized with him. But then there's also like Simon in this one, and they're also going through tough stuff, but I'm just like, they're my 2 least favorite of the main cast, so I'm kind of like, meh. But there are a lot of good moments in the story. Like, I really enjoyed Isabel in this book. I like how they're finally giving her some time to be on the page, and they kind of show that she is afraid to be vulnerable in a way just because of her experience with her family, her parents. They also give Magnus and Alec some screen time in this one, even though they're not in it at the beginning, and I am living for it. Actually, the reason why I had to film this entire clip is because I just spent, what, 5 minutes yelling at Mackie because they're my OTP. Like, Alec and Magnus are my OTP. Like, I just love them so much. Like, Alec is still such a teenager, and the moments he has with Magnus reminds me of that. But at the same time, like, his feelings, I mean, I still think he could communicate better, but granted, he's like 18, so I wasn't very good at communicating when I was 18, so I could forgive him for that. But like, his feelings about Magnus are so valid, and his worries about the relationship are also very valid. And then at the end, he and Magnus have this really good moment. It literally lasts for like a page and like a tiny part of the next page, and I'm still living for it. Even though those two barely get any page time in the main series, like, they're there in a scene together for like 1 or 2 pages, and that's it. I still am more invested in their relationship than any other relationship in the Mortal Instruments. I teared up yesterday when I was reading this scene at the very end when Alec is saying something about the next time Magnus dates someone, because he just found out that Magnus has dated a billion, which I'm like, Alec, I'm sorry, like, he's literally been alive for centuries.
And have you seen him?
I was like, how do you expect him not to date anyone? Jesus. But then when he goes, he's like, there's not going to be another one. I just like, okay, I have a lot of feelings. And then, I know, I'm like always screaming about those two on the inside. After that, like, when he admits that he's been trying to come to terms with the fact that he's probably gonna lose Alec in like 50 or 60 years because Alec is human, well, Alec's a Shadowhunter and he's bound to die. He says that he can't imagine life without him. I'm just like, yeah, that's literally my response. I think I reread that scene like 4 times since I read it the first time, so. Anyway, so there. So while I didn't love it because a lot of it took me a while to get into, especially Simon and Jace, I am interested in seeing how the rest of this particular series plays out because of what happens at the very end of it. I don't know how they're gonna fix their problems. That's basically what it is. I do get the pleasure of starting Clockwork Prince today. Look, it's Gem on the cover. And I cannot wait. I'm very excited. Also, they alluded to it so much in City of Fallen Angels. Like, there's an entire paragraph where Magnus thinks about being in London, and then he thinks about Will, he thinks about Gem, he thinks about Tessa, and like...
I need these pages.
And he says that he seems to allude to the fact that Tessa's the one constant in his life, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, what? So yeah, dead, dying, still dying, and that's how I feel. So there, that is my Shadowhunters update. I'm gonna go now so I can get ready for work and I can also start reading the book. Okay, bye! It's later in the day and I have to talk a little bit about Clockwork Prince because, first of all, I have never ever prior to reading this book wanted to even consider reading A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, but now, thanks to Will and Tessa, it has now officially been added to my TBR list. I sincerely doubt I'm going to love it, or like it even, but I will read it just because it's Will and Tessa. Magnus, in any capacity, in any of these Shadowhunters books, just makes me so gosh darn happy. I am still living for my Malik moments, but also like having him appear in Clockwork Prince and work with Will has been giving me life as well. Love Tessa, love that she is training to defend herself. I'm intrigued, but not overly fond of the Lightwood brothers. Although I will say, from the moment they sort of like have an interaction, I don't know, I just shipped Sophie and Gideon, so we'll see where that goes. Also, this is the book where you realize how painfully in love Jem is with Tessa, although he's never gonna tell her to her face because she's too busy mooning over Will. Yeah, but she also loves him back. Fairly obvious to me, especially if you're reading it and you're just like, oh, my babies have feelings. I love them so much. I love all 3 of them so much. I love Will in this book. But also, oh, speaking of Herondales, why is it that every single Herondale, or main character Herondale that I have met so far, always happens to be cursed? They're always cursed. And then they always think their curse is going to like ruin everyone and ruin everyone around them, ruin their lives. And like, they martyr themselves and they're like, I will protect you by distancing myself from you, or being a jerk, or making sure you don't fall in love with me. Why? Why must we put up with this? Why though? Like why? Still love the London Institute. I like think of them as like family, honestly. Like I would live in the London Institute. That's basically where we're at this point. So I told Kristen this earlier, and I think Mackie might have said it on camera earlier too, but Mackie's joke is that we're the original Malik. Funnily enough, like the more their relationship plays out, like the more you see it on the page, they actually do certain things that remind me of me and Mackie, like back in the day, like this whole business with Mackie, like with Mackie. Do you like how I said Mackie to the mouse? Like Magnus calling Alec by his full name, because Mackie does that to me too on occasion. I think it just brings me back to time when I was really young, and Mackie is a lot older than me in a lot of ways, especially emotionally, and that sort of dynamic is sort of echoed with
also I live
Magnus
forever,
and
so
I know Mackie's a warlock that who will live forever. I do love the banter that occurs when everyone is in a room together. Like I love that Jesse and Will are always at each other's throats, and then Jeb will just have like some throwaway comment that you think no one has heard, but then later Will will respond with like a corresponding comment, and you're just like, they clearly are like their own little tight-knit unit. The way I referred to it earlier was like, oh Tessa, you sweet summer child who doesn't realize she's in love with Jem. I mean, like, he made her blush. He has the fucking ring, and he gives it to her when they pretend to be fake engaged, which I was living for because that is like my life, apparently.
Tessa didn't pick, I don't get to pick.
So right before I finished my day at work, I got to the ending of chapter 5, and it really ends on a note where literally Will is just going Cecily, and I'm like, who the hell is Cecily? And then we find out who Cecily is in the succeeding chapter, and I may have lost my shit just a little more. So many feelings. Help. Okay, I'm gonna go now. Bye. Good morning. Still freaking out about Jem proposing to Tessa and Tessa saying yes. Not over it. Also not over Will being like, I love you and we can be together, and then both of them realizing they can't because they don't want to break Jem's heart. And then what else happened yesterday? Okay, Nate's dead. Don't really care about that. Oh yeah, baby Branwell. Oh my god, I knew it though. Like that I knew from like the moment when she started, like whenever they described her as like pale, wan, gray, I was like, there's a specific reason.
And I love how they're so properly British. Not that I would know what properly British
also,
is.
Gideon Lightwood and Sophie called it, nailed it from like their first meeting. Knew that was gonna happen, but I also kind of like Sophie, I didn't believe it was gonna happen until it happened. So there's that. I don't know where the rest of the story is going. I am happy that Tessa and Jem are engaged because Jem just deserves all the love ever. But also, like, I was telling Mackie, like, it really hurts my soul a little bit to see this love triangle playing out the way it is. I'm just like, just tell Jem. But also, like, don't tell Jem. Well, anyway, a lot of feelings there. Momentary pause in the Clockwork world because now I have to go back to the Mortal Instruments world. Oh, I forgot the other thing. Magnus Bane. Still living for Magnus Bane. That's it. Okay, so my favorite character in the entire Shadowhunters like universe, as of like, how many books have I read now? First 3, 1, 3. I've read 6 now. My favorite character in the entire Shadowhunters universe continues to be Magnus Bane. And I have to say that he and I apparently share a type. We like them tall, dark, and broody. But also, like, if Alec looks like this, it's kind of no mystery, like, as to why Magnus would find him attractive. I am just saying. Anyway, side note, started City of Lost Souls today. Already very much into it, and I have been blessed with a Malik moment, like, early on in it, which is so great. Shadowhunter update. Still reading City of Lost Souls, halfway through it. Did a lot of mental screaming yesterday over the events in this book. I mostly find that I am screaming over Magnus and Alec. Magnus is still my all-time favorite Shadowhunter character. I don't know how many times I can say it in this vlog, but he is. I just love him so much, and with such a deep love, that I also obviously almost immediately loved him and Alec as well, because Alec is my favorite of the Nephilim right now in the Mortal Instruments series. Even though Alec has been acting very much like a teenager and is doing things that I don't necessarily think are like the greatest possible actions that he could be taking, I still just like love him and Magnus and their relationship so much. When I said before, or predicted before, that I thought I would be Shadowhunters trash, I wasn't wrong, because I freaking love Magnus and Alec, and I literally catalog all of their moments together, and like a lot of what Magnus says I screenshot and all of that. But I'm also a huge huge fan of the Clockwork series, the Infernal Devices series, I mean. I think it's so enjoyable. I am dead terrified of what's gonna happen in Clockwork Princess because I honestly cannot predict it. Like, I have a vague idea of how certain things end because someone told me before, because I gave them permission to. But there were no specifics. I don't know how it gets there. I don't know how it works out, so I guess we're gonna find out, but I'm like terrified. So I have to finish this first, but hopefully I will also read and finish Clockwork Princess this weekend. Hello, long time no see. I don't actually remember the last time. I know the last thing I was talking about was definitely City of Lost Souls. I just don't remember if I talked about how it ended and how, like, I thought this whole like apartment that hops from like country to country was really interesting, and the ending really built up into something huge. But also, did I talk about how upset I was that Magnus and Alec broke up?
Totally.
Because I can't remember if I actually filmed this, but I literally, it has been like a couple of days since I read the ending, and I am still traumatized by the fact that Magnus and Alec broke up, even though I totally understand why Magnus broke up with Alec. I don't like it. I don't. They're my OTP, and it makes me sad that they're not together right now, because it breaks my heart. But moving on. We're now going to talk about Clockwork Princess. So I've actually read half of it already, and I've already been like very emotionally tense and traumatized by the first half of it, especially in particular. There is a moment that Will and Jem have towards the middle of the book, and I just... Will thinks it's the last time he's going to see Jem alive. Jem thinks he's going to die while Will's away. It's a thing, and I lost my shit over it a little. There's also this really great moment that Jem and Tessa have that I just like, I had a lot of feelings about because it's music, and like she understands his language through music in a way that not a lot of people do, and I can't. Okay, wait. But also, all of my other ships in this book are moving along quite steadily. Gideon and Sophie, Cecily and Gabriel, I mean, Charlotte and Henry, obviously. And my new favorite bro TP is Henry and Magnus, because that's just a match made in heaven, really. But what I really came on here to say is that I have literally spent the last hour and a half doing everything possible chores-wise to avoid reading the last half of Clockwork Princess because I'm really scared. Like, I don't know, like, I'm afraid. I'm both afraid that I will be emotionally compromised, but I'm also afraid that I won't be, which will be a disappointment considering how built up this has become thanks to Mackie and like Rachel and Kristen and Jade. So like, I don't know how I feel. I finished. I was not wrong in guessing that I probably wouldn't cry reading Clockwork Princess, even though I got very emotional. The two scenes that made me the most emotional were another Will and Jem scene, because I love Will and Jem, and also a Will and Magnus scene. I really enjoyed Clockwork Princess, even though it also hurt a lot. It also made me laugh a lot. I think it's because the inhabitants of the London Institute are just like, together, they're just so fun to watch. Except when, you know, everyone is going through very traumatic things, obviously. But like the banter sometimes, all my ships are basically, all of my non-triangle ships are basically fine and sailing. I totally knew about Jem becoming a silent brother before anything else. Like that, I was like the entire time like, he's gonna be a silent brother. It's gonna happen, like at some point. And it does. And I guessed which one he was too, because I was like, duh, it's kind of always, like, because of the way I'm reading it now, it's kind of fairly obvious, like, that he's that silent brother. So anyway, again, Cassie Clare, great world building, great story. Fricking infernal devices / automatons are terrifying. I'm so glad you ruined them. Also, Ithuriel, oh my god, I forgot, I didn't even say anything about this. When the angel that is in Tessa's Clockwork Angel reveals its name and says Ithuriel, I basically screamed because Ithuriel, but as Mackie said, the poor dude goes through a lot of shit. Like, a lot of shit. Like, he has the crappiest angel life ever. But it was really fantastic to see, again, that the main female character is the one who does the big thing that ends, like, brings everything to a close. So that was great. In terms of like the romance, I still refuse to pick. Mackie still refuses to pick, right? However, I will say that in this book there is a very obvious bias to me anyway, just reading it. So yeah, if you've read it, you probably know. I also started reading City of Heavenly Fire, and as Mackie can probably attest to, I feel like every single chapter there's something new I'm screaming about, whether it's like the good kind of screaming, where it's like, oh my god, this reference to the infernal devices, da, 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 da. Or it's the bad kind of screamer, like, why is all of this happening? Why is the world burning? I'm a little stressed, in case you were wondering. But I also want to point out, like, I don't know why I thought it was a great idea to, like, try and read all of these books in under a month. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm totally enjoying it, but also it is, like, the most emotionally exhausted I have been reading a book series in a while. I just cared a lot about a lot of different people in this series, so that's where that's at. So I'm gonna tackle this hefty tome tonight and see if I can finish it in one go.
The tome, it is hefty.
Okay, it's been like a few hours, and guess what? I finished reading City of Heavenly Fire. It is only the second Shadowhunter book that I have given a full 5 stars to, and it was so good. It's just so well plotted, it's so well planned, all these tiny details, all of the characters, all of the craziness. Once again, was mostly emotional over flipping Magnus and Alec. Also got emotional over Simon because, like, why? But it was really good. I really like it. It was like a time. I'm reading the Bane Chronicles tomorrow because who doesn't want more Magnus Bane? And then I get to start Lady Midnight. By the way, flip in love Emma and Jules already, and they've literally been in like what? Like like 1/6 of the book maybe. So that'll be fun. So as you will probably know, it has been like a couple of days since the last time I updated you guys. And I have to say that I intended to vlog more over the weekend, but I just kept reading, so things just kept happening, and I just have a lot of feelings about a lot of things. So we're just gonna like quickly run through the 4 books that I have already finished in the Shadowhunters world, because that's just who I am. So on Saturday, I binge read the entirety of The Bane Chronicles, which is by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, and Maureen Johnson. And all of these stories are centered around Magnus Bane, who happens to be my favorite character in the entire Shadowhunters universe. And I have to say, I really, really enjoyed it. I got answers to a lot of burning questions, like what really happened in Peru, for instance. And I got to see him interact with some of the characters that I knew of or were connected to characters that I loved. And I'm very excited about that. I really like 3 stories especially, and they all center around Magnus and Alec, which is unsurprising. The first one is called What to Buy the Shadowhunter Who Has Everything and Who You're Not Officially Dating Anyway, The Course of True Love and First Dates, and The Voicemail of Magnus Bane. And I just really enjoyed it. There was a lot of me yelling and saying things and freaking out over connections that were being made, and that was really fun to experience, and I think Mackie thoroughly enjoyed seeing me freak the hell out. So right after that, on Mackie's advice, I actually went straight into reading Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This is the first in the Dark Artifices series, and holy crap, it's so good. I knew it was gonna be good because a lot of my friends love this one, and Mackie loves this one, and I was so blown away. I basically fell in love with the Blackthorn clan, plus Emma, plus Christina, and you know, a few other people along the way. And I thought it was so clever and so interesting because once again, it's another mystery that's being resolved, and it brings to light a whole new facet of the Shadowhunters world, particularly because this happens after the Dark War, and everything has changed for everyone, and I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know the Blackthorn clan, particularly Emma and Jules. I loved seeing some familiar faces pop up here and there, and then the way it ends, I was like, well shit, things are gonna go get down in the second book. So it was really, really good. I will have more thoughts on this when we do like our little Shadowhunters wrap-up thing, but it was so well done. However, so after that one, I backtracked a little and went to read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, which has stories by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. And like the Bane Chronicles, this also centers around one particular character. In this case, it's Simon Lewis. And after the events at the end of City of Heavenly Fire, Simon finds himself with the opportunity to regain the memories he's lost and to become a Shadowhunter, so he attends the Shadowhunter Academy. And I love this collection a little bit more than the Bane Chronicles, even though Magnus obviously is still my favorite. And the reason why I loved it a little bit more is just because this story ties together a lot of different story arcs and characters, and it also gives me the opportunity, like gives readers the opportunity really, to see how Simon is changing the way Shadowhunters, especially at the Academy, are like seeing the world and seeing things. It was so good. yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was so amused by the stories. My favorite is Born to Endless Night for a very specific reason, and it's Magnus and Alec centered. And I also really enjoyed Angels Twice Descending because feelings. Also, this is one of our very few signed Cassie Clare books. It's signed by Cassie Clare and Alberto Rosende, which was really fun. And then I binge read the entirety of Lord of Shadows, even though I was freaking terrified. And I have to say, I quite enjoyed it, even though it was also very painful for me. I think the pacing in the first half is a little bit slower than I would have liked, even though a lot of important things and like new characters and things that make things more difficult are introduced. But once everything picks up and things go down, I was like freaking the hell out. First of all, in the good kind of freaking out way, I was freaking out because Alec and Magnus are in that book a lot, and I love Alec and Magnus, and the two kids are also there, and I love it. I just, so good. And then we obviously get to see the Blackthorns in action a little bit more, which is always amazing because I love that family so much. And then the ending. Oh my god, I don't know how anyone survived the 1.5 year wait for the next book after that ending, because I don't even have to wait and I am still feeling traumatized. I am terrified to start Queen of Air and Darkness, but also like eager to start it because I need to know how things end. Anyway, at the rate I am going, I actually am going to take a mini break from reading Shadowhunters books because apparently I'm getting really stressed out. The stress levels are high. Also, I know a lot of people are like, they either love Julian or they don't love Julian, and I love Julian. I just think that he's so interesting to watch because he seems like a cinnamon roll on the top, but really deep down, because he would do anything for his family, he is actually the most ruthless of them all. Emma is actually more of a cinnamon roll, even though she doesn't come across that way. And so yeah, lots of feelings. So I only have Queen of Air and Darkness left before I catch up, and today was the release day for Red Scrolls of Magic, which I'm waiting to come in the mail, although Mackie has it on Kindle as well. Very excited for that. So, Shadowhunters reading. I have successfully avoided reading Queen of Air and Darkness for like 3 days now, because the first chapter alone was already enough to get me both angry and sad, and like I don't know how the rest of this is gonna play out for me. But I am determined to finish tonight because I have to read Red Scrolls of Magic, which I just got my Waterstones edition of. Look how gorgeous this is. This is the only Waterstones Rune edition I own, and I love Malik so much, so much. So obviously needed this in my life. Terrified of reading this book, but also I'm very happy. Like, there's a tiny part of me that's thrilled because the Lightwood Bane Lightwood children are in the first chapter, but also Simon's in the first chapter, and I have developed respect for Simon after Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy and the end of City of Heavenly Fire. So wish me luck. So it's like 3 AM and I have been really like, I've been moved the entire time I've read Queen of Air and Darkness, but nothing has made me cry until the part where Magnus and Alec get married. I have a lot of feelings. I love them so much. Like, I'm just like, I can't stop crying. It's terrible.
It's lovely.
So many feelings. I love them so much. Finally made it to the end of this vlog, which means I have successfully read all 15 of the hardcover published novels that Cassandra Clare has done.
Culminating in
Red Scrolls of Magic, which I read in a day and loved. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a time.
I was there for some of it.
There are just a couple of things that I will quickly rattle off that I really love about reading the Shadowhunters books the way I did. I loved being so immersed in one world for such a long time, and it's such an incredible world that has so much potential for more things even. So I can just see Cassie Clare just churning out more books in this world, and I would never get tired of it because there's just so much to explore and so many things that you could just like tackle. And then now I love all of these characters, even the ones I didn't think I was gonna love. The other thing that I will say that I loved about binging the way I did was because I read them so close together, I could see everything that connected. Like, it's so good. It's so much fun. It's incredible. I think it's so much fun because it's so cleverly done and it's so organic, and it's in a way where like if you read them far apart, it wouldn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't know what it refers to, but then when you know what it does refer to, you're like,
there's a beautiful subtlety
anytime. Poor Mackie has been subjected to me constantly screaming or throwing things.
I quite enjoyed it,
or
actually.
like smacking him on the arm. For example, I read Queen of Air and Darkness, and I was reading it till like past midnight, and then like he was asleep.
I was staying half awake because I knew she would get to the wedding.
And there was a part before the wedding where I was like, and he's like, what? And then we got to the wedding, which you guys already saw. Yeah, so it has been a ride. I will also say the one thing that is sort of a downside of reading all these books so close to each other is that it is emotionally exhausting.
It is.
If you're the type of reader who gets very invested in characters and their stories, the way I am, and you get attached to the Shadowhunter characters, it is literally the most emotionally exhausting experience to read them all at once. I was like out of my mind tired all the time because I was just like, everyone was going through so much terrible things. And when I say terrible, I mean like terrible. So that is the one thing I would say is the downside of binging all of these books at the time. Now I'm just sad though because I have to wait between books. Like
welcome to our
else.
world now.
Anyway, just wanted to formally end this vlog. Would highly recommend reading all the Shadowhunters books. I mean, even if you didn't love the first trilogy the way I did,
try to push through them. Like when you
also have to push through book 4.
Oh god, yeah. So just if you can survive the first 4 books, it's pretty much all downhill from there.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
and if you hit City of Heavenly Fire, if that's not enough, I don't know what is. Seriously.
Then just don't continue the series. That's all I got. Anyway, so there. We hope you enjoyed the vlog. Bye.